Welcome back, Shalloners, and welcome Arianators, because today we're going to talk about Ariana Grande, the queen of Coachella, the newly minted queen of Coachella, and not just Ari and why we love her, but what makes her choose the guys she does, what we can learn from that, and basically all about daddy issues, because girl, you know you got him, I got him, she got him, we all got him. But issues don't have to run our lives, and I'll tell you why. Oh, but first, be sure to stick around to the end of the video because Happy Endings is back. Happy Endings, if you guys are new here, is where I offer a sex or hookup tip. And today, because we're talking about Ariana, what better to talk about than big dick energy? How to find a guy with a big dick and what to do once you got one. But be sure to stick around to the end for that. So in the meantime, if you guys want to chit chat with me privately and do some one-on-one counseling, the best way to do that is on the Instant Go app. Click chat. My username is ShallonXO and you get connected right away. Also, click like and subscribe for new videos every other day and deep dives on Friday about a good psychological subject. And follow me on Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter at ShallonXO. So, Ari. I love Ariana Grande. I love her. She's like a sexy infant. You know, she's like the tiniest little person. She's like a little 9-year-old, but she's like got this voice. I really wish she would do just a stripped down album, like her and a guitar. Not even, just like her. Like, I love her songs, but she doesn't even need all those beats, that voice. Unfortunately, things aren't going quite as well for her personally. I feel like we have all watched the continuing self-destruction of Ariana Grande in terms of her romances. First, there was Big Sean. Then there was Mac Miller. There's that guy Ricky in between, but I don't even know what he looks like. I don't care. Then there was Mac Miller. And then Pete Davidson. And on paper, you might not see what these people have in common. They're all celebrities, but it's like, okay, like beyond being famous, what are they? A mess. They're a mess. But they're all a mess in sort of a different and yet the same way. When I look at these guys, from what I can glean about them, they all have this sort of like quiet charisma. They're never the loudest dude in the group. They're never the flashiest, you know, like that douchebag. But they've got, you know, this sort of like inward confidence. It's like, hey girl, you know. They're also, like I said, fucking messes. Big Sean is a chronic cheater, cheats constantly, and likes really dramatic women and really dramatic breakups and all this crazy stuff. Mac Miller, rest his soul, obviously had substance abuse issues. Pete Davidson ain't too far behind. He's an admitted, like, heavy drug user, and he's got borderline personality disorder. I did a whole video on their dynamic, and it ain't good. But what does this have to do with Ariana's father, right? Well, it's easy to just knee-jerk and be like, daddy issues, but like, what does that mean? You know, we owe it to ourselves to explore our own complexes a little bit deeper, get to the root of something. And if we're not willing to do it for ourselves, we can do it. We can analyze other relationships and kind of cherry pick those lessons and apply it to our own lives. If that personal introspection is painful, which it usually is, you know, growth is painful, growing pains. Hello? So one thing that's important to remember is that people don't date with their heart or their head necessarily. They date with their complexes. They date with that little psychological itch. Ugh. We tend to date people who remind us of our most difficult parent. This is a psychological tenet. And what does that mean? You know, and why? Okay, maybe we know what it means, but why do we do that? We want to date someone who reminds us of our difficult parent because we want to unconsciously like do the relationship over and like fix it, you know, like do it right. We want to have it play out in a healthier way, in a better way, in a way we understand, in a way that we can control. Right? Because we think that we should be able to control the outcome because now we're an adult. That's not always the case. And the difficult parent that you have might not be the one you think. I said before, like, I didn't grow up with my father. I met him like once or twice. I was distinctly underwhelmed. And my mom really, and the whole rest of my family took a lot of care to keep him out of my life because he was not going to be a healthy influence on me. And so I always assumed that, he's going to be the difficult parent, right? I had every therapist tell me like, no, it's actually your mom. You don't have enough data from your dad. You know, he's just like this thing that you never interacted with. Your difficult parent is your mom. And my mom traveled a lot for work when I was a child. And so this was like before cell phones and Skype and all that stuff. And like when she was gone, she was gone. And she was in like Riyadh. Like she was gone. And so when she was here, I was just like basking in the magic of having my mom home. We had so much fun. It was wonderful. And then she would be gone again. And I mirrored that in my relationships for a really, really long time. I would have a guy and we would go on dates and be like, and then he would ghost. Or I wouldn't hear from him for 2 months or these trickling little communication. The good guy fuckboy I've talked about in my other videos. precisely mirrored that, precisely. And it's hard to let go of those things because it's not just the person, it's that itch. It's that psychological itch. So how does this play out for Ariana? If you guys, I had to kind of like look up her history, but I knew she had like an acrimonious relationship with her dad. And oh, yes, she does. Her last name, Grande, is her mom's last name. Her parents got divorced when she was about 8. Her dad was a graphic designer. Do you realize how mad you got to get a woman for her to change your kids' names back to her own? You got to get her mad, 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 mad. And he did. It was a very messy divorce from, by all accounts, bitter, acrimonious, just bad. And I would guess that her dad kind of could be put in the same category as Sean, Mac, and Pete. That quiet charisma, bit of a charmer, but messy as fuck behind the surface, you know? And, or maybe he didn't even have that charisma. And maybe these guys don't even have that charisma either. Maybe they're just messy. And maybe Ariana looks at that. And again, all of this is like unconscious. No one's got like a big whiteboard in the room that they're like, step 2, crossing it off the list. Like we're all just acting based on our complexes and our impulses, you know, which is why that introspection is so important, because sometimes just taking the step back and being like, this is the itch talking. This isn't my head. This isn't my heart. This isn't even my ego. This is the itch. So I know what you're doing, itch, and I'm not going to scratch you, because just like any other itch, if I leave you alone, you're going to leave me alone too. You're going to go away eventually. That can just help release the knots. Just acknowledging what's going on beneath the surface is, I think, like 80% of the battle. You feel incredibly better, like when you just can do that. You don't fall into the sadness like we all think we're going to, you know. So I think Ariana has dated these guys, and I bet her mom is really strong, really badass, really capable, and maybe she's chronically fallen for dudes who are a mess, and she's got kind of a Captain Save-A-Ho complex, you know what I mean? And I see a lot of that in Ariana. She wants to save these guys. She wants to love them back to life. She wants to be that inspiration for them, that source of like stability and the anchoring. And she wants them to open up where they might not open up to other people. Mac, Sean, Pete, they seem like very like macho dudes. Like they're not going to be like, here are my feelings, you know, but like, I mean, Pete, actually, he's kind of a different story, but like maybe they opened up to her and she was like, oh yeah, open up to me. Maybe her dad never did, you know, maybe there was always sort of that distance between them and that barrier and that wall. So it's important to like look at what she's doing with her relationships. And if maybe you're doing that too, what patterns are you trying to mirror? Does your relationship have essentially on paper the same trajectory as your parents? This is where counseling is like so helpful, because what a counselor can do, and this is like what my role is for you guys, it's like I can pull back and see the forest for the trees and be like, okay, I can see the overview. I can see the pattern in this and I can see the pattern in this. It's really hard for us to do when we're in a situation ourselves. Like we're so myopic. There's so many feelings. It's like, how can you make heads or tails out of a situation? That's why a neutral party is amazing. Like it's a consultant. You need a neutral party for like your health. You need a doctor to be like, all right, here's what's wrong with you. Same for your mind. So of course, Ariana's life took a big turn after the Manchester bombing at one of her concerts. It's unfathomable situation. And I mean, just all the way for everyone, for every single person involved, it was just unfathomable. Their lives will never be the same in a lot of different ways. And she recently came out and posted a picture of her brain scan showing like this classic like diamond shape in terms of areas that are lit up, which signifies PTSD, post-traumatic stress syndrome disorder. 4 letters. Who can remember? And she called it terrifying and hilarious. And it's like, it's not hilarious at all. It's just terrifying. But again, the first step to changing something is acknowledging it. And good for her that she isn't just brushing this off, that she isn't anesthetizing with alcohol. And this is how we know our girl is growing. She's not dating someone right now, right? One big thing humans do is we avoid. We're going to go down the easier path, allegedly easier, rather than address that hard thing. Rather than look at what's going on inside of us. Okay, does this actually have to do with my father and the unresolved issues with my father or my mother or a rape or abuse or PTSD? No. No, let's not talk about that. Let's drink. Let's shop. Let's get plastic surgery. And it's like we can identify societally that those things are bad. It's like, no, you shouldn't be doing meth because you have an emotional owie that you need to address. But dating is a lot murkier. Dating someone is like, well, who could be mad at somebody for falling in love? Don't you women have love? I want to fall in love. But it's not always the healthy option, right? Ariana, I think, rather than addressing the issues with her dad, has been doing what a lot of us do, mirroring that relationship, trying to do it over to fix what's inside. I've got news for you. If that worked, we'd know about it. People would be like, oh, you had a shitty family? Go get a boyfriend. It'll all work out fine. Like, no one is saying this because that doesn't work. And I wish it did, right? Don't you wish the drugs for everything just worked? Don't you wish that the vices actually fixed what was wrong? They don't. And in fact, they become their own new problem. And we can acknowledge that with like drugs and alcohol. It's like, okay, if you don't come to terms with the fact that you were sexually assaulted, doing a bunch of cocaine is going to now become its own issue. If you don't come to terms with your dynamic with your dad, these toxic new relationships are now going to become their own issue. And guess what you're now in therapy for? All of it. And I really feel sorry for Ariana because, and I feel sorry for all of us, because she said sort of semi-recently, I don't know how long ago, but that like one of the hardest things she's had to deal with as she's gotten older is coming to terms with the estrangement with her father. And she's like, we don't really talk anymore, and that's been really difficult for me to accept, but I think I finally have. Do you know one thing that I've realized as I've gotten older? When parents and children don't get along, it is overwhelmingly the parents' fault. It is. I'm not saying that the kid isn't exacerbating a situation. I'm not saying that they're not doing anything hurtful and throwing stones of their own. Not at all. At some point, it does take two to tango. But if you watch like Intervention, I love Intervention. I love to watch it on a Friday night or like a Saturday morning when I'm hungover because I'm like, my life choices are fine. I just feel so much better about myself. Always, especially in girls, you have like, I like the part where they get to like, they go back to like from the childhood and they take you through this person's life. And there's always something that happens to this person. They were molested, they were raped, their mom got divorced and moved off with like the new boyfriend out to California. And it's always something like, I was molested by my neighbor and I told my mom and she's like, I don't believe you. And the mom's like, I don't know why she's on meth. We done tried everything. Oh, have you, Nancy? Have you? It's the child wanting a connection from their parent and the parent not giving it. Children are hardwired to love their parents. All species are hardwired to love and attach to their parents. Not for the rest of their lives. There has to be a separation and an independence, of course. But like, you don't hear about like an animal it's the mom that's rejected the cub. It's the mom who doesn't take to the baby. Even human-wise, like you don't have very many babies who just are like over their parents. It's like, I'll find my own place to breastfeed. Thank you. No, it's like parents have trouble attaching to their baby. And it's, there's obviously a lot of like other factors going on. But like when you get older and you have a girl who wants a relationship with her father in some way, and he is not making it possible, because that's what I gleaned from the situation. She seems so upset about it that it's either like he's not engaging with her or he's so toxic she has to like get him out of her life. Like maybe he does want to engage with her the way Justin Bieber's dad wants to like be in his life. Oh, suddenly when you're a multimillionaire, suddenly you want to be in this person's life? That's interesting. That's really interesting. Where were you during like carpool drop off? Where were you during PTA meetings and Boy Scout troops? I want to be friends with someone rich and famous too. So I feel bad for Ari. And I feel like finally she's doing exactly the healthy thing that she should be. And she's taking a break. I think the Manchester thing, and the passing of Mac Miller and the drama with Pete Davidson, not like any of it was good, but I think it was all so much that she had to take a step back and is like, I don't have any more room in my life. I have nothing to give. I can't be half of a whole if I don't know what half I am. And like literally my brain is messed up. So what can we learn from this? Stop using relationships as a vice. Stop using them as a getaway car from whatever is going on inside you. Just address it. And if you don't know, ask people who care about you. I bet they do. We all sit around and we're like, do you know why she dates that guy? It's because she feels ugly and she thinks that's the only one who's ever going to love her. Like, we all have our theories. Don't you worry. Don't worry. Or spend like $50 and go to a therapist. Like, how many lattes is that? 8 or something? Don't you think your mental health, nay, all the relationships in your life are worth that time? And I know the thing that keeps us from doing these deep dives emotionally is, like I mentioned, we think we're going to fall into it. We think that sadness and these issues are a bottomless pit. And once we go in, there is no coming out. And I promise you from experience, that's not the way it is. It isn't. If that was, psychologists would, like, they would have told us, like, they would be like, no. Everyone would be in the nut house, people would be jumping off cliffs left and right. It's like a splinter. And I've used this metaphor in other videos. I'm going to say it again because it's still true. When you get a splinter, you're like, I don't want to pull it out. It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. But you acknowledge that if you leave it in there, it's just going to get deeper and it's going to hurt more and it's going to last longer. So you're like, fine, I'm going to cowboy the fuck up. I'm going to pull that splinter out. I'm going to feel that pinch and it's going to be intense but short. And then I'm going to be in pain a little bit, but I'm going to be healing. I'm going to be healing and I'm going to be moving forward in my life. Psychologically and emotionally, it's the same thing. You got to dig that splinter out. Don't be like Ariana. Don't wait until you have a brain scan that you're like, I need some me time. I mean, she's doing the best she can. She's so young and she's dealing with fame and all this. I mean, there's a lot going on. But I think after she comes out of this hiatus of dating and working on herself and going to therapy, I think hopefully she's going to be making completely different emotional and dating decisions. And you can too. We are not fated to live out our issues. Not at all. Not at all. It's like, I have a bad back. It doesn't mean I'm going to be crippled for the rest of my life. It means it's something I need to do maintenance on. I need to be cognitive of, and I need to work around. But it's you deal with it. This is life. And at the end of the day, what other choice do we have? We just give into our issues because, well, I don't know. This is what I'm kind of programmed to do. Fuck that. Don't be lazy. Go out and be happy. You know what it's time for now? Happy endings. Oh. That's right, guys. Today, it's a happy ending. We're going to talk about, since we're talking about Ariana, big dicks and their energy. But first, a word from our sponsor. All right. Yeah, I'm going to talk about big dick energy. Namely, how to find a guy who has it. I don't mean the energy. I mean big dicks, right? Because, come on. So, an important thing to understand about penis size is vagina size. Vaginas aren't, if you don't know anything about vaginas, perhaps today is the day to learn. Your vagina doesn't go all the way up to your chest. It's like a balloon, it's a finite area. It starts at the outside of your body and it stops at your cervix. When something bumps into it, that's your cervix. That's what the baby comes out. Well, the baby comes out of your uterus. The cervix is like a door, and the uterus is like a room. And inside that room contains a baby or an IUD. Hopefully an IUD until you're ready for a baby. But so it's important to understand that some girls I don't know, biggest dick ever. It's well, do you have the biggest vagina ever? Because that sounds kind of uncomfortable. And if you see someone with maybe not the biggest, we all know sometimes it can feel fine. Also, it's important to understand the G spot. I don't know why I just went like this. The G spot is, this is why, because it's only 3 inches in and it's on the top of your body. So if a guy is 3 inches, I mean, he's hitting the target. Actually, you should probably be 4 because you got to account for the back and the fourth, right? And that's what the head of the penis touches on. So you're oh, that's nice. Talk about scratching an itch. So how can you tell if a guy's got BDE? One of my friends, God, I love her. She's I always date guys with big dicks, always. And I'm how? Is this on your Tinder profile? She's no. She's I just go for dudes with this quiet confidence. And I'm also tall. And so I go for taller guys. And if you're a tall dude and you've got quiet confidence, you got a big dick. I was I'm going to say, even if you're not tall, you have BDE. One thing I've noticed though, God, I can't wait for the comments on this one. Tall, skinny dudes. Yeah. Pete Davidson. I mean, that's like the classic big dick body type. Do you know what I mean? I remember hearing that like Frank Sinatra, right, was so popular, and he's a tiny little thing, but he was super skinny. He was like killing it with the ladies. And someone said at the time, they're like, he was 120 pounds and 100 pounds of that was cock. I was like, oh, like our grandmother's generation didn't talk like this. Like, I was like, oh, okay, well, that explains a lot. And he definitely did have the BDE, but it's definitely that body type. It's the skinny dudes. I don't know why. It just all like funnels down into one other area. I've always thought the bigger the beard, the smaller the eggplant. Bearded boys just, what are you hiding? What are you hiding under there? Is it a weak chin? Is that what it is? I'm not saying they're not really foxy, but I'm just like, I gotta wonder. Of course, it's not all the time. Actually, now that I think about it, I know one country singer who definitely is beardy and definitely BDEing. We'll get back there. But try to go for, the quiet confidence and the skinny dudes. Because if all you're after is a BDE or a BD, they're out there. But remember, like I said, it's not all about that. So what do you do if you do encounter one? If you get a grand surprise when you hook up, it's like, oh, because we are taught to like, oh, like if he has a small dick, whatever, that sucks. But what if it's really big? How do you deal with it? Well, we're going to find out with this Dove Refresh Care Dry Volume Shampoo. No, they didn't sponsor this. Can you imagine me approaching a brand like, hey, do you guys want to be in a video where I pretend this can is a penis? Okay, so here's all our money. But it's just like the thing I had, and it's sort of like phallic. Remember with the BDE, your hands are going to be instrumental, okay? Don't try to get the whole thing in your mouth. Your mouth isn't that big either. What a nightmare this is. And the last thing you want to do is be toothy and scrapey. So use the hands and focus on the top. Focus on the cap. Oh, there you go. Focus on this part with your mouth. And let the hands do the rest. It's fine. Also, there's a lot of yoga you can do to stretch, like a squatting stretch. Like, you know how like women not used to in most countries in the world, they give birth squatting because it opens up like that bottom. There's like a muscle band that runs like your whole undercarriage. It opens that up. And so you don't have to have an episiotomy where they basically cut your butthole in half. It's horrifying. So do that stretch. Just like you just literally squat down on the ground and like hang out there, rock back and forth. Do that a few times a week and your body's going to be a lot more open in ways that it should. Sex is going to be a lot more comfortable. Your leg can go back further because, guys love that. So if you guys have more BD questions, let me know. But yeah, lube is also going to be your friend. I like coconut oil if you're not using condoms. I've heard you shouldn't use them with condoms, but TBD on the BD. Like I said, if you guys want some one-on-one counseling, find me on the Instago app. My username is ShallonXO and click chat. And click like and subscribe to new videos every Friday. And follow me on Instagram, Snap, and Twitter at ShallonXO as well.